أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. اللهم أخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمنا بنور الفهم وافتح علينا بمعرفة العلم وسهل أخلاقنا بالحلم واجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. اللهم اجعل أعمالنا خالصة لوجهك ولا تجعل فيها حظا لغيرك. وصل اللهم على سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Can't be that dead. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How's everyone today? Alhamdulillah, hopefully refreshed from the holidays. Not yet. Inshallah soon. We continue with Surah Mulk bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. We ended on verse number, was it 9? Yeah. We finished verse 9, right? Okay. So I'll just read a couple of verses and we'll continue. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذا ألقوا فيها سمعوا لها شهيقا وهي تفور تكاد تميز من الغيظ كلما ألقي فيها فوج سألهم خزنتها ألم يأتكم نذير قالوا بلى قد جاءنا نذير فكذبنا وقلنا ما نزل الله من شيء إن أنتم إلا في ضلال كبير. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the discussion that will be happening with the inhabitants of Jahannam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِذَا أُلْقُوا فِيهَا سَمِعُوا لَهَا شَهِيقًا وَهِيَ تَفُورُ. Allah speaks about when they are cast into it, you'll hear the fire making sounds. تَكَادُ تَمَيَّزُ مِنَ الْغَيْظِ, describing this fire as almost wanting to split itself apart out of anger. كُلَّمَا أُلْقِيَ فِيهَا فَوْجٌ سَأَلَهُمْ خَزَنَتُهَا أَلَمْ يَأْتِكُمْ نَذِيرٌ. But here's where the discussion happens. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, whenever a group of them is cast into the fire, its keepers will ask them, أَلَمْ يَأْتِكُمْ نَذِيرٌ, did a warner not come to you? And this is very important here. Why so? We started off speaking about, at the beginning of the surah, we started speaking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's power, His omnipotence. We were speaking about how that manifests itself in the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? In Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala having all of this perfect creation, but still we find people that deny that. They deny that, and it's to their own detriment. In the year after, they end up in the hellfire. This brings in another element of belief. The Makkan surah. What's a Makki surah? Well, a number of explanations. The most common and probably most correct one is that it's a surah that was revealed before the Hijrah, right? And what you know about those Makkan surah? What did they focus on? In general, the Makkan surah focused on matters of belief, right? And most salient of those matters of belief is, number one, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, and to know all of the qualities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the window into coming to know of that is via prophets, right? Is via a messenger. And so this section of the surah starts to speak about a messenger by using the word nadhirun. Alam ya'tikum nadhir. What's a nadhir? A warner. What does a warner refer to over here? A warner here refers to a prophet. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says elsewhere about Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that Rasulullah came bashira wa nadhira. He came with good news and with warning. Right? He comes bearing glad tidings and with warning. Sorry. So one of the functions of the messenger coming is that the messenger warns those that deny and disbelief and act in contradiction to what he brought, that what awaits them is detrimental to them. And that's what makes the being a warner. So these people are cast into the hellfire, and then they're being asked, did a warner not come to you? Like, how is it that you end up here? That's the imagery that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is creating in this here. They're being cast into the hellfire, and then they're being asked, didn't a warner come to you? As if, if a warner came to you, how on earth did you still end up over here? Like if I come to you and I tell you, listen, if you put your hand on the stove, it's going to burn. And you then go and put your hand on the stove and you burn. Am I not justified in thinking that that's downright dumb? Because I came and I warned you, and then you still got burnt. You have no one else to blame but yourself now. So that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking here. Alam ya'tikum nadhir, the keepers of Jahannam asked him, didn't a warner come to you? How is it that you're still ending up here? Qalu, they then said, Bala, yes. قَدْ جَاءَنَا نَذِيرٌ, a warner did come to us. فَكَذَّبْنَا, but we denied and we belied him. وَقُلْنَا مَا نَزَّلَ اللَّهُ مِنْ شَيْءٍ, and we said, Allah didn't reveal anything to you. إِنْ أَنْتُمْ إِلَّا فِي ضَلَالٍ كَبِيرٍ, you are only in clear astrayness. فِي ضَلَالٍ كَبِيرٍ. Just before we move on, this is speaking of the response of the disbelievers to the messenger when he came, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? What is their response? We denied him, and we told, the disbelievers are now saying, we told the messenger that he was astray. We denied him, and he told him, Allah didn't reveal anything to you. You are the one that is astray. You, and you can see it's plural, antum, you and the believers are the ones who are astray. Just something about the imagery of the word dalal. Dalal means to be lost. Dalal means to be lost. For example, I always like to keep in my mind the image of a person going through a forest, and he's going through the forest at night, and then he loses the pathway and he can't find his way back. That's dalal. So here the disbelievers, the one who themselves have nothing, they deny the claim of this man who claims to bring them something, and then they accuse him of being lost. Number one, that speaks of how lost they themselves are. That they cannot recognize the fact that they have nothing themselves. And I think this is profoundly important in our times. Why? Why do I think it's profoundly important in our times? I was just speaking to, I think, my brother, I can't remember who it was yesterday. In this postmodern era that we live, the distinction between what is right and what is wrong is so stark and apparent that it's like you either have to choose to side with nothing, which is the only logical outcome of a postmodern thought, or you side with truth. And I don't want to get sidetracked too deep into that, but it's just very, very profound in our times that the people that think they hold the moral ground, higher ground, are people that themselves recognize that they don't have anything else. If you listen to Richard Dawkins, the atheist speaking, he speaks about the fact that human beings don't have any purpose, but we can make up a purpose for ourselves. As if Sirius, supposed to be an intelligent man, speaks about the fact that human beings' creation, nothing actually has a purpose. But because having a purpose makes us feel nice, we can make up a purpose for ourselves. The thought of that is just absurd. So he's saying, I should rather dupe myself into believing that I have a purpose because having a purpose makes me feel good, as opposed to rather believing that I do have a purpose, and using all of the plentitude of rational and textual proofs to show the correctness of that position. It's profoundly important in our time, and it's something that the youth will be ever more in need of engaging with, because it's not, well, most likely, yes, we're talking about education and how we need to better education, but we're going to be sending our generations of youth to universities where the overriding thought is postmodernist and nihilistic and destructionist. Our youth need to know how to engage with these things. So it's just very important. But anyways, how did I get into that? It stems from the fact that these people here are calling the one that is guided misguided, despite recognizing that they have nothing within themselves. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions to us what they continue to say. وَقَالُوا, what does that mean? Easy past tense verb, وَقَالُوا, and they said. What did they say? وَقَالُوا, and they said. Who is the they? The disbelievers still. وَقَالُوا. Remember we had at the beginning of the previous verse, قَالُوا. That's the start. قَالُوا بَلَا قَدْ جَاءَنَا نَذِيرٌ. What else did they say? وَقَالُوا, and they said, meaning and these disbelieving people said, لو كنا نسمع أو نعقل ما كنا في أصحاب السعير. What did they say? لو. What does لو mean? لو means if. Now that's something that we need to know how to engage with. You know, from your sentences you have a jumla ismiya and you have a jumla fi'aliya. There's another type of sentence, a jumla shartiya, a conditional sentence. Don't focus too much on it now, but you can just write it down. You have a conditional sentence, and a conditional sentence will be shown usually by some kind of particle that means if. Harfu shart will either be a in or low or something like that. But why it's important to recognize that is because at some point in the sentence you're going to have to identify the condition and then the response to that condition. So if this, then that. But there isn't actually a word included in the sentence for then. It's just understood by the structure of the sentence. Just like in a jumla ismiya, you have a is or are implied in the sentence, but there's no actual word for it. You just have the mubtada and the khabar, and you know there's a is or are between. Similarly, in this conditional sentence, you have that thing at the beginning that shows you that it's a conditional sentence, and then some way there's an invisible then in the sentence. Right? So, وَقَالُوا, and they said. What did they say? The sentence starts here. لو كنا نسمع أو نعقل. لو, if كنا means what? You mustn't get confused here. You know a word كنا, they or you, many females, this is not that. كنا over here comes from the verb كان. كان or كان كانوا كانت كنا. So that looks like something else that you know, but this is not the same thing. This is a different form of the verb kana. If I say the scale, just listen to me. I don't expect you to know the scale yet, but just listen to me saying the scale. Kana, kanu, kanat, kunna, kunta, kuntum, kunti, kuntunna, kuntu, kunna. So this is what we have over here. Kunna. It's just the plural form of the verb kana. The first person plural. So what do you think? Kana means was. What do you think kunna will mean then? We were. Right. Now here's another interesting thing. When you have kana or one of its other forms followed by a present tense verb, doesn't that seem like something strange? Because kana is was, past tense, isn't it? And then it's followed by a present tense verb. So what's happening over there? That's like here we have the verb nasma'u. Is nasma'u past tense or present tense? Madi or mudari'? Mudari'. The verb is sami'a, yasma'u. If you go down the scale, yasma'u, yasma'una, tasma'u, yasma'na, tasma'u, tasma'una, tasma'ina, تسمعن أسمع نسمع. That's what we have over here, right? So it's a present tense, first person plural. But more than that, I have kana, one of its forms, which is kunna over here, followed by a present tense verb. What that does is it kind of changes the tense to a past continuous tense. To a past continuous tense. So in translation it will mean used to. If only we used to hear and understand. Meaning, not just because there were many instances via which they could have been guided by hearing. There were many instances via which they could have been guided by actually understanding things. But all of those instances they didn't benefit from. They didn't use, they didn't seize those opportunities. So it wasn't a once-off thing. For example, if I say, just listen. If I say sami'tu, what does that mean? I heard. What if I say kuntu asma'u? Or let me make it simpler. What does sami'a mean? He heard. What does kana yasma'u mean? Kana means he was. Yasma'u, he is hearing. So I can't really put that two together just like it. He was, he is hearing. Doesn't make sense. Right? It means he used to hear. So what's the difference between he used to hear and he heard? The one happens on more occasion than once. It's a past continuous tense. For example, when I say he heard the story, it means on one occasion he actually heard a story. Whereas if it was kana yasma'u, he used to hear, that will mean on a number of occasions he heard this thing. So here they're saying, لو كنا نسمع, if only we used to hear. But here more with the meaning of listen. أو نعقل. What's the root letters of نعقل? عقل. What does عقل mean? You know your aql, isn't it? Aql. It can mean to understand, yes. Here it's in a verb form. Aqala ya'qilu. Aqala ya'qilu. And you say the scales will sound like this. Ya'qilu. Say it with me. Yeah, because if I don't ask you to say it with me, then you're going to forget your scales. Say it with me. Ya'qilu. Ya'qiluna. Ta'qilu. Ya'qilna. Ta'qilu. Ta'qiluna. Ta'qilina. Ta'qilna. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's right. Ta'qilna. A'qilu. Na'qilu. That's the one that we have over here, right? If لو كنا نسمع أو نعقل, if only we used to hear and understand. Interesting. Must I tell you the nice thing about the word naqilu now, or must I tell you afterwards? Okay, no, let's first do the translation of the verse and then we'll get into some deeper tafsir. If only we used to hear or understand, then what? Then what? You see, this over here, this is the condition. If only we used to hear and understand, that's the condition. If that, then what? Then ما كنا في أصحاب السعير. This is what we call the response. Why am I breaking up the sentence like that? You see, I broke the sentence up into three parts. The first one is the qalu. But the qalu, you can actually put that aside. The sentence that we are dealing with is لو كنا نسمع أو نعقل ما كنا في أصحاب السعير. Everybody see that? I broke the sentence up into two parts. The one part I said is what I could actually do is here. That's the harf that indicates that it's a conditional sentence. Then I have the condition, and then I have from ما كنا في أصحاب السعير, that is the response. Why did I break it up like that? Because you, inshallah, in due time will come to recognize that when I'm dealing with a conditional sentence, between the condition and the response, there is an implied then. If this, then that. Can you see any word that means then over there? No. And it's not a then that really indicates order. It's just indicating an outcome of a condition. So if this condition was fulfilled, then something else would have happened. So what is the response here? What would have happened if they actually could hear and if they actually could understand? ما كنا في أصحاب السعير. كنا will mean we were. ما كنا will mean what? We were not. Because ma before past tense verb makes it negative, isn't it? فعل, he did. ما فعل, he did not do. Same thing. كان, he was. ما كان, he was not. كنا, we were. ما كنا, we were not. But you're going to see now how we're going to have to alter that translation somehow. ما كنا, we were not. في, in أصحاب السعير. أصحاب, what is أصحاب? Is the plural of the word صاحب. What's a صاحب? A companion. You can see that's a light word, isn't it? No al, no tanween. What does your mind get alerted to when you see that? A possible mudaf, mudafun ilay construction, but what needs to be there as well? The following word needs to be in jar. Is the following word in jar? Yes, it is. So now I identify that I have a mudaf, mudafun ilay construction. So what does as-sa'ir mean? We came across this word before. The blazing fire. So ashab as-sa'ir will mean what? The companions of the blazing fire. What will that mean? Ma kunna fi ashab as-sa'ir. Here you're going to translate that fi as among. We were not among the companions of the blazing fire. But again, is this speaking about past tense or future tense? It's a conditional sentence. So you're going to translate it like this. Though we have past continuous in the one part of it, and then we have past tense being used in the second part of it, the fulfillment of that condition or that response, you're going to understand it as future tense. So look at this. وَقَالُوا, and they said, لَوْ كُنَّا نَسْمَعُ أَوْ نَعْقِلُ. If only we could hear and we could understand. مَا كُنَّا, then we would not have been. I'm making it future. We would not. It's almost like, is that even future? Yeah, it's like a reflecting back kind of thing. We would not have been amongst the companions of the blazing fire. We would not have been of the companions of the blazing fire. So they are saying now that the reason that they find themselves in the blazing fire is on account of them not listening and not understanding. That's also important. But before we go into how that is important, I just want to look at one of the words here. The word na'qilu firstly. The word aqala ya'qilu means, it means to understand, right? Because you know the word aql. You know the word aql. But if you were to look in an Arabic dictionary for the word aql, or look for a simile of that word aql, you'd find the word mana'. Mana'. And mana' means to prevent. So how does aql go from meaning to prevent to meaning intellect? Where does the word come from? Anybody know? I just want to see what it says in the Hansveer. Even if you look in the Hansveer as well, and the aqala ya'qilu, the meaning there is to hobble with the iqal. I'm going to tell you what the iqal is now. To intern, to confine, to detain, to arrest, to put under arrest, to throw in wrestling, to pay blood money or vergeld or something, I'm not sure what that is. And then to be endowed with the faculty of reason, to be reasonable, to have intelligence, to be in one's senses, to be conscious. Whoa, that's like a stark difference, isn't it? I was just talking about to detain, to arrest, and then to be endowed with the faculty of intellect. To be intelligent, to understand. How do the two relate to each other? Is it just random? No, it's not random. The Arab, you know that black thing that the Arabs wear around their scarf? They put the scarf on their head and they wear that black thing on top of it. That thing is called the iqal. That thing is called the iqal. If you ask them, they won't say iqal, they'll say igal. But that's just because of how they're pronouncing the word. But it's actually called the iqal. Why do they wear that thing on the head? It has a purpose. You think it's to keep the scarf from falling off. Maybe nowadays, yeah. But they lived in a desert. That thing was there actually to tie the knee of the camel. That thing was so, because if you're traveling in a desert with camels and you want to stop to take a rest, there's not going to be a pole in the middle of the desert. Okay, let me tie my camel over here. No. What happens is you get the camel to kneel down and you tie its leg. But if you happen to find yourself traveling in the desert and you don't have something to tie your camel up, well, then you can't rest. Because if you go sleep and the camel runs away and the camel has all your stuff, artis. Right? So that's a very important article for them to have on them. They needed to have that thing, so they put it on their head. What's its purpose? To restrain the camel from running away. Why? The camel running away is going to harm the camel and it's going to harm its owner as well. So they put the thing on the head. The iqal. And that's why the faculty of the thing that's inside that head became known as the aql. The aql. The faculty of intellect and also the verbal noun which means to detain. How does that relate to us? The purpose of the aql, of a human being is to restrain him as well. To restrain him from that which will harm him. To restrain him from that which will harm him. And so, if we look at the Imam Ghazali's understanding of the self, he says that you are made up of, as a human being, you have a qalb, a spiritual heart, which is made up of a ruh. Because all of these words are mentioned in the Quran, a ruh. You have the nafs and you have the aql. All of them have a purpose. The ruh receives divine messages from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of Allah's existence and His perfection and all of that. Some people, they experience the manifestations of those divine messages. But you can only do that when it is not overpowered by your nafs. What's your nafs? Your nafs is your desire. Your desire for food. Your desire for sexual intimacy. Your desire for your hunger, your appetite, your anger. All of that forms part of the nafs. Is that necessarily a bad thing? No. You need all of those things. If you don't have hunger, if you don't have sexual appetite, you don't have all of those things, you will not be able to preserve your own body. If you don't ever have the desire to eat and you don't eat, you will become malnourished. Right? So that nafs has a purpose. But its purpose is to maintain the state of the body. If one overfeeds that nafs, firstly, if you starve the nafs too much, then it leads to a destruction of the body. And if you overfeed the nafs, it also leads to a destruction of the body. How so? If I don't eat at all, I become malnourished. If I overeat, I become If I'm gluttonous, then I become obese. If I don't have any amount of anger, then I become a pushover, people can abuse me. If I have too much anger, then I become tyrannical. If I have no sexual desire at all as a human species, then our species die out. If I'm too much indulged in that, then that can lead to physical harm, and it also takes me away from my purpose of remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it may lead to abuse. Right? So, the nafs has a purpose. But that nafs has to be kept in check. It has to be reined in or fettered by something. That thing that tells the nafs, you have a purpose, you have fulfilled your purpose, now you must stop. And that thing, that faculty in a human being is called the aql. So we spoke about the ruh, we spoke about the nafs, and we spoke about the aql. The aql is there to keep the nafs in check. If the nafs is kept in check, then the human being will be guided by those divine messages of the ruh. If the nafs is overfed, the nafs then overpowers the aql. Your aql may tell you, okay, that fifth kusista is not necessary. But your nafs is too strong, you can't do anything to the your nafs is too strong, the aql can't restrain him. So you go and you have the 5th, 6th, 7th, 10th kusista. You become gluttonous. That leads to lethargy, and you eventually don't end up following those divine messages of the ruh. So that's the purpose of the aql, to restrain and this is it's that faculty of intellect that a human being has that restrains him from doing that which is harmful for him in this life and in the next. Right? But it's a faculty of reason, number one, and it results in a person being or restraining himself from entering into that which harms him. So that's just something about the word aqala yaqilu. Then, isn't it interesting? Why do they say these two things? If only we heard and we reasoned or understood, then we wouldn't have been in the hellfire. Why didn't they say, if only we believed, then we wouldn't be in the hellfire? Why didn't they say, if only we read, then we wouldn't be in the hellfire? You understand the question that I'm posing? Isn't it that they must believe, and if they believe, then they wouldn't be in the hellfire? So why do they say, if only we heard and we understood? If one studies Islamic theology from the classical texts of Islam, then generally there are two modes via which the existence of Allah is proven. The one is textual, but the textual root is actually preceded by an oral tradition. So when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came, he didn't come with the Quran, okay, here's a book for you, read it. It was an oral tradition. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam received revelation, he then articulated that revelation, recited it to people, they heard it. Through that, they came to know of the miraculous nature of the Quran, and they were guided to believe in the existence of Allah. Right? So the one route of coming to know Allah is the textual route, or rather the root of revelation. And that's comprised of in this word nasma'u. The other one, or the other means via which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed us to come to know of Him, is via the intellect. Is via the intellect. How so? And this is what naqilu could be entailing. You know, the Muslim theologians were excellent, such that I don't know if anybody's interested in reading and stuff like this, but there's a guy by the name of William Lane Craig who wrote a book, The Kalam Cosmological Argument for the Existence of God. You can hear from the name already where he took it from. The Kalam Cosmological Argument. He took it from the subject of Ilmul Kalam, which existed with the Muslim scholars. And what was that? It's a rational defense for the beliefs of the Muslims. So there were rationalists in all times, Western philosophers that opposed the beliefs of Muslims, and Muslims then came with a rational defense saying, in the realm or in the scope or the sphere of this discourse, we are going to put aside our textual proofs of the Quran and the Sunnah, and we are going to rationally argue for the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then they came up amongst many other arguments with the cosmological argument, and that argument is that if there is a thing that has a beginning, then that thing must have been brought about. And if that thing is brought about, then it must have had a thing must have existed that brought it about. And since things, we can't have a never-ending chain of those things, because the entire universe had a beginning. Therefore, there must have been a being that did not have a beginning that brought about things that have beginnings. And that thing that had no beginning must have had ability, because it brought something about. It must be unique and all of those other things, and that is essentially Allah with His qualities, and that's the rational approach to proving the existence of Allah. There's a lot more detail to it. I can't get into it now. This is not a Ilmul Kalam class. But what did I say? Amongst the early Muslim theologians, there were two, and not just the early ones, the latter ones as well, two ways of proving the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One is via revelation, one is via intellect. Revelation was something heard, and obviously the philosophical way was all down to the intellect. So here they say, لو كنا نسمع أو نعقل. If we had heard or we used our intellect, then we wouldn't have landed up here. Why? Because that hearing or that using of the intellect would have necessarily led to them believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If it led to them believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then the objective would have been achieved, and they wouldn't have found themselves in the hellfire. But they didn't listen, and they didn't think properly, therefore they didn't believe. And since they didn't believe, they found themselves over there. Right? That's just looking a little bit deeper into the verse. Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said or used the words nasma'u aw na'qilu instead of just saying law kunna amanna, if only we had believed, or law kunna nu'minu, if only we had believed. Why instead of using nu'minu, use nasma'u aw na'qilu? There must be some purpose to that. There isn't a word out of place in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't mention any single word in the Quran except that that word has a specific and profound meaning. It's all miraculous. So what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say next about these people? فَاعْتَرَفُوا بِذَنْبِهِمْ فَاعْتَرَفُوا بِذَنْبِهِمْ فَسُحْقًا لِأَصْحَابِ السَّعِيرِ. Is our time up? 5 minutes. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that they said, or Allah tells us about them rather. فَاعْتَرَفُوا. How many words do we have over there? There's 2 words. It's fa, and then we have the verb i'tarafu. I'tarafu. Mawlana Khalil, I heard you speaking earlier about other babs in Sarf that you're going to learn. This is one of them. If you want to make a note of it, this is the 8th form. And it's represented in your dictionary by that Roman numeral for 8 over there. Why is that important? Just if you want to find the word in your dictionary, you have to identify what the root letters are and then where to find it from there. So what are the root letters of this verb? Ayn, Ra and Fa. That's correct. I didn't expect you to know that, but okay, many people got it right. Alhamdulillah. It's Ayn, Ra and Fa. Arafa, the verb Arafa, I'm not talking about the place Arafa. The verb Arafa means to know or recognize. To know or recognize. But here we have it on the 8th form, which is i'tarafa. And here i'tarafa will mean to confess or admit to something, or acknowledge. And who's the fa'il? If it's i'tarafa, you have i'tarafa, i'tarafu. So what does it mean? They admitted or they acknowledged. Right, that's the fa'il. So fa'tarafu, so they acknowledged. What did they acknowledge? بِذَنْبِهِمْ. This verb عرفة is just used with the harf B, so you don't have to translate that. They acknowledged. What did they acknowledge? ذَنْبِهِمْ. It's actually the root, the word is ذَنْب, ذال noon ba. But when you say it almost like a meme. ذنب. What does it mean? A sin. So فَاعْتَرَفُوا بِذَنْبِهِمْ. ذَنْبِهِمْ means their sin. They acknowledged, they admitted, they confessed to their sin. فَسُحْقًا لِأَصْحَابِ السَّعِيرِ. سُحْقًا in this form nasb over here is a expression. It means like destruction for. سُحْقًا, destruction, li, for أصحاب السعير. We just came across that before now. What does that mean? The companions of the blazing fire. Suhqan, you can say destruction, but it actually means suhq will mean to be remote or removed. So it's to say, when I say suhqan li something, it means away with him. فَسُحْقًا لِأَصْحَابِ السَّعِيرِ. So away with the companions of the hellfire. What does that mean? Away with them? Destruction awaits them, or something like that. It's an expression of condemnation or of damnation, if you want. فَسُحْقًا لِأَصْحَابِ السَّعِيرِ. To hell with them, or away with the companions of the blazing fire. Now I think our time is up. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dealt with the companions of the hellfire. How Allah is telling us now about what will be said in the future, right, by a certain group of people. And again, we remind ourselves that Allah tells us of that, not just because He wants to tell us of something inevitable. Allah tells it to us as a warning, and that's why there was a play on that word, the nadhir. The nadhir, to warn you of it. And any rational, insane person, when he receives a warning, just as we are receiving warning by reading these verses, we take the warning and we prevent ourselves from falling into the harm against which the warner warns. And so that is the imperative for us in reading these verses. Just as we read about what will happen in the future, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is allowing us to be warned of it now, so that we do not suffer its harm eventually. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us. But the Quran is always in balance. The Quran is always balanced. So just as Allah now spoke about the outcome of the people of the hellfire, in the next verses Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will go on to speak about the other group of people, those who acted differently to the disbelievers. And we'll see what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about them next week, inshaAllah. Our time is up for now. Wa jazakumullahu khair. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.